Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Let me tell you a story this morning. I've never been able to sing. I mean, I just didn't have it all through my life and just couldn't make the sounds. I could hear the sounds, but I couldn't make the sounds out of my mouth. So years ago, I decided that I wanted to have some singing lessons. Not that I'd be able to sing in a choir, but at least some lessons that I could actually sing in church and people wouldn't go, shut up. So I found a voice coach in St. Louis that a friend recommended, and I went to him. And if you've ever had music lessons, you kind of know how it runs. He was sitting at his keyboard, and I was standing next to his keyboard. And before we started, I took a check out of my pocket. I handed him the check, and we're going through this lesson, and he's having me play a couple of notes and sing this notes and try this scale and do this scale and happy birthday and playing happy birthday and going along these things, and we're going for about 20 minutes, and he just stops and he reaches into his pocket and he looks up at me and he says, "Mark, go home. I could take your money, but I'd feel guilty. Don't let anybody tell you that you can sing." So I went home. I drive home from St. Louis. I felt terrible. I've been over a couple of days. Who gets tossed out of a music voice lesson you're willing to pay for? And thinking there's nothing I could do. And I come in, and it takes a couple of days for me to realize something. I wasn't given the ability to sing. That's not what God gave me, that gift. God gave me the gift of talking. I can talk. I can talk about most anything if I try. I can really talk about Jesus. And I tell that story because it's important for us to know that God gives each one of us something we can do. One of the things I hear people say all the time, there's nothing I can do. I don't have any gifts. I don't have any talents. I don't have any skills. I don't have any passions. There's nothing I can do. And I'm sorry, folks, that's wrong. If you're thinking that, you got a wrong mindset. Because there's something all of us can do. Everybody's been given a gift or a talent. One of the things we need to realize as a people of God, as a church, as a congregation, is God can use whatever talents we have, whatever passions and skills we have. Do you like to draw? God can use that. Do you like to clean houses? God can use that. Do you like to hunt? God can use that. Do you like to work on cars? Do you like to mow? You don't have to have the things like we normally associate with is teaching and speaking and singing and playing an instrument is church things that God can use. Yes, he can use those things. But God can use anything. We need to get to the point where we realize, number one, that God has given us gifts and skills. And number two, to trust him enough to know that. He's given us what we can do. So my first question for you today is, what do you love to do? What do you love to do? God can use that. Do you have any skills? You've learned anything? God can use those things for his kingdom. Which leads me to another story. There was a young lady that I had come across several years ago. I first knew her when she was about 10, and through about 3 or 4 years when we finally got disconnected. Young lady had a beautiful voice. I mean, a seriously beautiful voice. All kinds of music presence. She'd sing in church regularly for us. And she had the talent and the gifts and the skills. She sang at the Muni. She had her professional card. She'd been paid to sing, and so she would sing. And I would ask her regularly, and I'm going to call her Susie because that's who it's not her name, but I'm going to call her Susie, and I'd say, Susie, you have a gift. You have a gift from God. The question is, how are we going to use it for Him? And I'd ask her that repeatedly. How are you going to use it for Him? And I said, it's not a question you can answer right now, but you got to think about it. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a professional church singer. But the question becomes, how are you going to use your voice for God? Which is the question I have for you. The things you can do, the gifts and the ability, the skills, the loves, the passions you have, the things you just enjoy, even if it's just sitting watching a football game or whatever it is. How are you going to use that for God? That's the question that I had to struggle with in my thing about not singing lessons. It's kind of that realization is that I've been given this voice, being able to speak, and God wants me to use it to talk about Him. It's kind of why I'm in this job. We'll run together. But to be able to talk about Him and to be able to share and to be able to speak and be able to communicate with people and share the message of Jesus and to share, compassion in times of funerals and those kinds of things is that's how I use my voice for God. The question becomes, how do you use your gifts and talents, whatever that is? Because that's God's plan. That's God's plan for the church. That's God's plan for His congregations, is for the people in that congregation, for the people of God, to use what He's given you and to use what you've learned to help grow His church, to use it for Him. Let me say that again. God's plan for His church, God's plan for His congregations, is the people in those congregations to use their gifts, to use their passions, to use what they love for Him, that His name is spread. Thank you. Thanks for listening. God bless. Have a great day.